another episode of Unscripted. This is a totally unplanned episode. I'm just moving around the camera trying to see if I like this angle where it's at. Doesn't seem to get in the way of driving. I'm using an Insta360 X5 for my videos, so I'm able to kind of put it like in an awkward spot and get a good view. I was using that side view, but now I found on the other side where I can pop it in and get almost a more straight on view. So we're going to try that one. So I don't even remember what topic I was going to say. So I thought I would just do a little background about myself. So I was born in the 70s, born in Ohio. I now live in upstate New York. Born and raised in what we call the tri-state area: Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. Really didn't travel much out of there as a kid. I think at furthest I went north was Cleveland, and really that was it. You know, a little bit towards Pittsburgh as a kid. Did do some traveling as a teenager with my oldest brother when he was involved with Amway, and that itself is a whole nother chapter that I want to get into sometime down the road, but we'll just leave it at that now. So I did a little bit of traveling. I think I got to go to DC, North Carolina, dropped down to South Carolina. Did a little bit of traveling, you know, at age 16 and 17. And then when I turned 18, I joined the Navy and went to Orlando for boot camp, and then over to Pensacola for school. And I spent almost a year, I think, in Pensacola going to school. And I went to school to be a cryptologic technician maintenance. So I learned how to work on electronic equipment. And then after that school was over, I transferred up to Maine, and I spent 3.5 years in Maine, with about 6 to 9 months of that being another school where I learned how to work on a system that was called Classic Wizard, and spent 3 years as staff there, working in a maintenance shop, maintaining the operational side of the house and the training side of the house. They had two systems that you had to maintain. So I did that, transferred overseas to an island called Diego Garcia. I spent about a year there. Diego Garcia is in the middle of the Indian Ocean, about 7 degrees south of the equator. And upon leaving that island, I transferred to Guam. Spent about a year and a half in Guam working in the same system. And then while I was there, I really enjoyed Guam. Guam was like being on a tropical vacation every day of the week, except you had to go to work. So it's like going to work in the morning, and then it was vacation, you know, when you would get off work. I started diving when I lived in Guam, and you know, that's where I was at. I was filling tanks or on a dive. We would go for lunch and go do a quick dive, and then because they would give us, like, if you were going to go work out for lunch, you could take an hour for lunch. So we would do that. We would have it all planned out. We'd just basically leave the building, get in the car, head to the closest beach, drop down, do a quick dive, come back up, you know, change, head back to work, you know. And weekends I would do anywhere from Saturdays and Sundays, we would do about 5 dives a day. We'd do 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and then hit one evening dive, a night dive. We did a lot of boat dives out there. It was really a fun duty station to go to. I left there in the winter and went to my next duty station, which just happened to be Great Lakes, Illinois. And talk about a shocker, landing in the middle of a blizzard and just not being ready. It was insanely cold. I think there was snow 3-4 feet deep, and that started basically my 3-year stay as a company commander at boot camp. Trained 6 divisions when I got there. Went on hold, went to battle stations where I was a battle station facilitator. I did probably 3 months there, and then was called into the office by the master chief that ran battle stations, and basically he was asking me about my job and what I did as a CT, and then he told me that he wanted me to write a database, which I had never done. I had no experience. Like, I'm an electronics guy. I'm not a software guy. But because the rate of a CT had that expectation that you were a smart person and you should be able to do anything, he basically said, I'm going to toss you a book on how to write a database, and I want you to create this database for me. And that was, that became my mission. And I wrote him a database, and I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, but I was writing my ticket to stay at that hold job for another 9 months. And every time they would say, hey, they want to send me back to the streets to do another push, he would say, well, no, he's my database guy, and nobody knows the database but him. So it earned me an ability to stay there for 9 more months. Ultimately, I would leave there and go do one more push, and then transferred and went to my first ship. And I had 11 years in the Navy before I even got to my first ship. I spent I think 3.5 years on the USS Boxer out of San Diego, and then transferred to the Theodore Roosevelt in Norfolk, and which is where I retired at. I ended up staying there for my last 7 years. It may have been 6 years, I'm not even sure. But basically went on one deployment with them, and then the ship went into the shipyard, so I extended and stayed in the shipyard until I retired. And then I retired from the Navy, went to school, got some retraining, and ends up doing what I do now. I really enjoy it. Moved to upstate New York after I finished school, and been here ever since. So that's Unscripted. I don't live really far from Cooperstown. I'm a big baseball guy, so I like to go there a couple times a year. I haven't made that journey out there yet. I don't know if it's in the script for the summer trip, but I think I might make an October trip out there. I know coming up in a couple weeks I want to head out to Ithaca to go to the falls, and then in late August we're doing Leominster, Massachusetts. I'm going out there with my cousin who does Johnny Appleseed for the Johnny Appleseed Festival in Lisbon, Ohio. So he and I are going to take a road trip out there. They have a small Comic Con, so we thought it'd be kind of neat to go out there and crash it as Johnny Appleseed. And then I also want to they got one of those mountain coasters over in Massachusetts. I want to go check one of those out. And then September I go to Lisbon, Ohio for the Johnny Appleseed Festival. Plan on shooting a lot of content there. Shoot as much as I can, get it uploaded. I'll also break out the big camera and shoot some still photos. I really enjoy doing that. Probably going to bounce back and forth between that and the Insta360. And then that's a full week that I'm there, mostly because I do a lot of work setting up. And then the festival is a 2-day festival, so we'll shoot some footage out there as well. This is an upcoming channel. Subscribe if you want to, hit the like button. I'm gonna make videos as long as I can, and hopefully we gather some attention. And we'll go over some other things. I'm also a Lego used Lego seller. I have a Bricklink store. It's not really huge. It's time consuming, but I like to do that too. Pick up some used Lego, sell them, and that's the other thing that I do. Speculate, buy more used Lego or new Lego and wait for them to retire and sell them later on down the road. Anyway, that's a little bit about me. We'll check in later with you guys, okay? Have a good day.